were prepared because of what you've been doing in the past years. Is it too late for other people maybe to change their positions, or is there opportunity here as we're having this conversation today?
That's a great question, because I personally see this period of time as the worst period of time in history, but the good news is you can still make changes. But I don't make recommendations. For example, Dave Ramsey is a friend of mine, always says live debt free. Well, I do everything the opposite. I'm $1 billion in debt. So what I do, I don't recommend people do. And that's kind of the difference here. So the most important thing that people can do is listen to different points of view, like YouTube and podcasts like these will offer different points of view. But I just caution people, I think it's going to get worse.
Worse in what ways do you think?
Civil unrest.
Civil unrest. Okay, so that goes to the extreme.
Right. Well, it's not extreme. I tweeted a few days ago about there was some guy who was shot, and I said it was just starting. And the number of the violence in the cities has continued to escalate. But that's not a mistake also, because that's why we have defund the police, and they're soft on crime. They leave the southern border open. I mean, this stuff has been, I didn't think it was going to be this bad. I knew they're going to screw it up, but not this bad.
Yeah, what's interesting in some respects is you came up through the Vietnam era, and were fought in the Vietnam War. You'd spoken to that about that before, and there was protests and things back then when all that stuff was going on. But this seems like a different animal when you look at the types of civil unrest that's going on, that's already started today. But also, it seems like it could degenerate pretty quickly. And so, if you are, and you said you have no money in the stock market, so you're not investing in equities at all. And before we started speaking, you did say that you just bought a gold mine. Can you tell me a little bit about that?
Well, I think this show is about money, and the question is, what is money?
You're right.
And money is God. Gold is God's money. Silver is God's money. Copper is God's money. It was put. I'm not really religious. I know you're in Utah. I'm not Mormon. I'm not preaching. I just call it the way I'm a U.S. Marine, and I call it as I see it. God put gold here. God put silver, put copper, and that's why I call it God's money. Bitcoin is people's money. So it's made by the people, and the U.S. dollar and most fiat currencies are government or fiat money. And I've never trusted fiat money.
Yeah.
So that kind of led me to be the guy walking around with a cloud over my head, because I just didn't trust the U.S. government, and I still don't trust the U.S. government. And this guy Biden, I'm not political either, but he is the worst president we have ever had. I mean, how in the world can you leave the southern border open? How can your son be caught dealing with China and Ukraine and pulling all this money in? Oh my God. And people say nothing about it? My God.
So now you said, okay, you look at gold, silver, precious metals, God's money, meaning, hey, it's a part of a natural resource that's here, it's scarce, and it's not subject to fiat, and government whim. You started to mention Bitcoin as the people's money. So what is your view right now around crypto? Do you think it's, I guess there's two questions. The moral question, about the fact that there's decentralized finance and non-government controlled currency. But then there's also the practical question, does this have a shot? Do you think that the governments might try to interfere with people investing in this? Where do you think that might go?
Well, let me ask you this. If I went to China and I said, I'm going to start my own little currency, the Chinese government would shut me down. Right. Because they're tyrants. America's going to do the same. So I think we're going to have the Fed coin. And my concern is that's a surveillance technique. So they can interfere with my lives, know what I'm doing, what I'm buying, and all this stuff, tracking devices. So the reason when I understood what Fed coin or the US government coin would do, I became more of an advocate for gold, silver, and in that case, Bitcoin would not fall in that category, because I want money that I can spend that's not traceable. Not that I do anything illegal, But I have boxes and boxes and boxes of silver eagles. That if a push came to a shove, I could pay you in silver eagles.
Right.
It's not traceable. So I hate to say this, but I just tell you the truth. I have this black cloud over my head when it comes to my government. And the reason you mentioned earlier, because as a U.S. Marine flying for the Marine Corps in Vietnam, I got very disenchanted with America.
So when you say America, you mean the American government?
Yeah, because when I was in Vietnam, I went there in 72 and 73. First time was 66. As a student, I went to the academy. And my rich dad wrote me a letter in 72, and he says, hey, Nixon took the dollar off the gold standard. This is 72. I'm sitting on an aircraft carrier flying strikes into Vietnam. And I go, what the heck does that mean? We're off the gold standard. I didn't know anything. So my co-pilot and I decide, well, let's go buy some gold. So we look at the map of Vietnam, and there's this little hammer and sickle, whatever it is. It says AU, gold. I said, hey, it's a gold mine over here. And so we're off the coast of Vietnam, and we fly. And it's only one problem. The gold mine is now behind enemy lines. And we were losing the war, in other words.
Yeah.
So being Marines weren't that bright. We said, well, let's go anyway. So we flew behind enemy lines, and there's this little Vietnamese woman with red teeth, I'll chew betel nut. And I walk up to her, and gold was $35 an ounce, which was started in 1933 with Roosevelt, President Roosevelt. But when Nixon took the dollar off the gold standard, gold was now pushing 50. So I went from 35 approximately to 50. So I said, well, because we're behind enemy lines, I can buy gold at a discount. So here I am, enemy all over me. I'm standing with this little Vietnamese woman, my co-pilot and I, and we want a discount. She laughs her ass off at us. Here we are, two college-educated Marines. And she looks at us, she goes, spot, spot. I said, what the heck is she talking about? I didn't know what spot meant.
Spot.
That woman knew more about money than I ever did.
Wow. I have never, I haven't heard that story before, and it's very entertaining. But the real sort of irony in it is now fast forward, 50 years or so, and now you are buying gold mines. So what's interesting is you had the instinct back then to say, money's taken off the gold standard. Let's go behind enemy lines and buy some gold, and then now here you are buying gold mines, but your understanding of money and why you're buying it is I think a whole different level. But the dynamics haven't changed.
Yeah, well, and it's worse than that because being Marines are not that bright. I'll say it again. Yeah. So I went up to Canada in British Columbia. I love Vancouver, British Columbia, and I went looking for gold mines. And I found one in China. So we bought the biggest gold mine in China. I took it public on the Toronto Stock Exchange. And that's why I don't own any stocks. Is once I found out how the stock market process, how you go from a private placement to taking a company public, I said, I don't trust the stock market either.
Right.
And so then what happened? But wait, it gets worse.